What is going on? What is going on? It's your boy, Julien Stoutt, licensed personal trainer, licensed PE teacher, world record powerlifter, here to take the fear out of fitness. We're about to take off and class is in session. So, everybody thinks that ADHD is about attention. But what if your diet is quietly making it worse every single day? Today, we're breaking down how nutrition directly impacts behavior and brain performance. So, first thing is, what does ADHD actually need, right? ADHD is a dopamine problem, not just a focus problem, right? So the thing that makes ADHD so prevalent, you see something. Seems like I'm having some technical difficulties. What's going on? What are you seeing? Because you should be seeing me by now, unless you're hearing the old video. Let's try it now. What does it look like now? Can anybody see me right now? Before I move on with this show, let me know if you see my face right now. Do you see the visage? Do you see me? Okay. All right. Let me start over. So everyone thinks that ADHD is just about attention. But what if your diet is quietly making your symptoms and situation worse? What if we're going to break down today how nutrition can affect and impact your focus and your behavior and your brain performance? Now, what do I know about this, right? I could tell you with extreme regularity. That I know for a fact this is true. Because your boy has ADHD. I haven't been diagnosed officially, but when you look at all the signs and symptoms and everything over the years, when I was a child, first of all, they used to call me ants in the pants or space out stout. One of the two, right? And as a result of that, that let me know, hindsight being 2020, my diet was not the best in the world because I was very picky as an eater when I was a child. Very picky. Couldn't sit still. Always wanted peanut butter and jelly. Nothing else really. I'd eat a few things, but nothing of significance, right? And then as I've delved more and more into the special education side of education, I have educated myself on many of these subject matters. And the more I look deeper into the forum of ADHD, I began to realize, holy crap, I might be it. And before I even get into the rest of it, I'm going to start giving you some some facts about ADHD, right? But what I'm going to tell you is what ADHD actually needs to be mitigated. It can't be cured, but it can be mitigated. And when it's mitigated, a lot of things come into play that you will then begin to realize, holy smokes, this is why I struggle. First of all, your brain is on dopamine. It's a dopamine hit, right? And it's not just a focus problem. Whatever makes your brain light up is what your brain is going to seek out. Have you ever noticed that even though you're quote unquote with ADHD, what you're doing is you're seeking out something that will stimulate you and make you feel what you're feeling, right? And you like the feeling that you're getting by doing whatever it is that you're doing. Don't believe me? Tell me if you've suddenly like lost focus during sex. How often does that happen? Very unlikely, right? Why is that? Because you're feeling the dopamine hit. You're feeling great. You're not going to lose focus on what is giving you pleasure. And if running around like a chicken with his head cut off is going to give you pleasure, if bouncing off the walls is going to give you pleasure because you're finding something. Ooh, 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 squirrel. Ooh, 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 I got to grab this. Ooh, I'm going to play with that. Oh, that's boring. Okay, I'm going to play with this now. Ooh, I'm going to focus on this. Right? That is the dopamine hit. No different than cocaine, no different than speed, no different than any drug that hits your brain. So as a result, it's a dopamine hit. So what improves your dopamine levels? Steady fuel. Your brain needs steady fuel. Your brain needs amino acids and your brain needs healthy fats. Now, steady fuel, your brain runs on glucose primarily. And when your brain runs on glucose primarily, even though your brain is 60% fat, your brain is 60% fat, it sits in fluid, and the fluid that it is surrounded by, the cerebral spinal fluid that it's surrounded by is glucose rich, meaning it is rich in sugar, right? As a matter of fact, they will tell you, when I was in the military, they would tell you that if your brain is leaking, like meaning you cracked your skull and you taste it, you see clear fluid and you taste it and it's sweet to you, that's your brain leaking. Okay? If your brain doesn't get the raw materials, basically, it can't perform. All right? And that is very, very important that you understand that. So, I know most of you can't see this exactly, so I'm just going to let you know that I'm showing it to you, though. Where I'm getting this information from, the National Library of Medicine. Okay? The Natural Library of Medicine. The National Library of Medicine, excuse me. So, attention deficit, I'm reading this straight from the website. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is one of the most common psychiatric diagnoses in children and adolescents, and is also increasingly diagnosed in adults. ADHD is complex, heterogeneous, and multifactorial, and is associated with widely diverse profiles of behavior, cognition, emotion, and motivation. The main symptoms of ADHD include age-inappropriate levels of inattention. Again, age-inappropriate levels of inattention. So me as an adult should have a level of focus that reaches certain levels. However, when I am not on, I am everywhere. Okay? Impulsivity, hyperactivity, And impulsivity can be anything. Impulsivity could be the run up and smack somebody upside the head. Impulsivity could be just to say what comes to mind. Impulsivity might be simply to drop your pants in the middle of Times Square, right? And hyperactivity, meaning moving more than the average age-appropriate person. Comorbidity of ADHD with other mental conditions is frequently observed. Genetic susceptibility, interacting with social and environmental factors, is assumed to contribute to the etiology of ADHD. Structural or functional brain changes cannot be found consistently within people with ADHD, and biological diagnostic markers underpinning the validity of ADHD concept are lacking. Which what they're saying is that you can't see it. It's not something that shows up. While short-term improvements of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity can be achieved in children and adolescents with a diagnosis of ADHD by medication with psychostimulants, behavior therapy, and parent management training, the degree of efficacy of these therapies remains a matter of debate. Numerous trials have shown that pharmacotherapy administered for several weeks can produce statistically significant improvements of the main ADHD symptoms assessed using clinical rating scales compared to placebo. However, the minimum difference in rating scale scores indicating the ecologically relevant effect is unknown. Thus, statistically significant, though small effects on symptom scores may not equate to clinically relevant improvements in difficulties in daily life. So what they're saying is that you're on drugs, it works, but it doesn't make it so dramatically different that you are forever changed. And when I say forever changed, you cannot cure it, but you can mitigate it. So it is not changed in a way where it is a significant play on it, right? The administration of drugs such as methylphenidate almost certainly yields some short-term symptom reduction in children and adolescents with ADHD. However, the extent of therapeutic efficacy is unclear due to the low quality of outcome measures and possible bias of trials. While randomized controlled trials supporting long-term effectiveness of psychostimulants for more than a few months are lacking, the findings of observational studies have suggested potential long-term benefits of medication on serious problems co-occurring with ADHD, such as substance abuse, transport accidents, criminal convictions, and suicidal behavior. Little is known about the safety of extended administration of psychostimulants. The findings of long-term observations suggest that children with diagnosis of ADHD who are treated with psychostimulants into adulthood may present with a decrease in height as adults without any ongoing improvement in symptomatology, excuse me. So, I'm going to skip a few of this. Actually, various lifestyle factors include diet and nutrition have been proposed to be involved in the pathophysiology and management of ADHD, meaning people are beginning to realize that there's a potential in nutritional relevance in controlling and managing ADHD. Emergent evidence points to a role of nutrition in the brain development and functioning. Furthermore, various nutrients and diet quality have been linked to behavioral, cognitive, and affective functions, as well as to the prevalence of mental disorders. Nutritional deficiencies have been suggested to play a role in the pathophysiology and management of various mental disorders, such as depression, schizophrenia, autism spectrum disorder, and ADHD. Nutritional approaches to management of ADHD have therefore attracted increasing scientific interest. So let me tie this up with a bow in a way. You see how lead can create developmental delays and in children and also in adults, well, more in children because developmental deficiencies is prevalent in children, right? So meaning children are developing their brain. If you get lead poisoned as an adult, you will be impacted, but the difference is that you will decline over time as opposed to you just lost all ability to learn, right? Whereas with children, because their brain isn't fully developed, the lead that is in your bloodstream and the lead that is in your brain is now affecting the ability of your brain to develop. So therefore, your cognitive ability is diminished mightily in comparison to a child of similar age, similar background, similar intelligence at the time of lead poisoning. So if lead can poison your brain and affect you developmentally, why can't the nutritional capabilities of you therefore affect your ability to control mental disorders of any kind? In recent years, several articles and chapters have reviewed the available scientific literature on ADHD in food, diet, and nutrition. The current review provides an update of most recent developments in the field. Okay. So basically, they looked into stuff, and I'm just summarizing this because I want to actually get into the things that I want to talk about. Basically, they conducted meta-analysis with nutrition or food and or supplementation and or vitamins or minerals or fatty acids and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. A total of 873 papers were retrieved. Following titles, abstract screening, duplicate studies, animal studies, articles without a special focus on ADHD and nutrition, papers published in journals without peer reviews, editorials, letters, notes, and conference abstracts were removed. While using this criteria, only 54 studies remained. Okay? So basically, it went from 873 studies all the way down to 54, based on the criteria that will allow somebody to create a meta-analysis on information that has been compiled over the years about ADHD and nutrition. Micronutrients. A sufficient supply of micronutrients such as minerals and vitamins is required for normal brain development. Micronutrient deficiencies may contribute to dysfunctioning of the prefrontal cortex and other brain regions believed to play a role in the pathophysiology of ADHD. Associations between symptoms of ADHD and mineral and trace element status regarding magnesium, iron, zinc, copper, and selenium have been proposed. However, the findings of studies exploring such associations have been inconclusive. Here, trace element and mineral levels were examined in 52 boys with ADHD and 52 typically developing boys. Statistically significant reductions in hair copper, magnesium, and manganese were found in children with ADHD. In regression models, hair, zinc, and magnesium levels were inversely associated with the severity of ADHD. Serum mineral and trace element levels were measured in 68 children with ADHD and 68 typically developing children. In comparison with controls, serum levels of chrome, magnesium, and zinc in children with ADHD were reduced by 21%, 4, and 7 respectively. So chrome was 21% lower, magnesium was 4% lower, and zinc was 7%, while serum copper and zinc values were 11% higher. Now, zinc is, if you look at boys, zinc is a mineral, trace mineral that is highly linked to testosterone production, right? So what that means is there's a strong possibility that when testosterone kicks in, or if the testosterone is already high, therefore your ADHD might be there as well. I'm just pointing that out. The role of these changes in the pathophysiology of ADHD remains to be investigated. Further studies on magnesium, zinc, and iron in ADHD have been published recently. Magnesium. So I'm going to run down a few things. Randomized double-blind placebo-controlled clinical trials of 66 children examined the effect of both magnesium and vitamin D supplementation for 8 weeks. The use of a strengths and difficulties questionnaire was used to evaluate behavioral functioning and mental health at baseline and at the end of the study. Following 8 weeks of intervention, significantly elevated serums of magnesium and 25-hydroxy vitamin D3 were found in children of the intervention group when compared with the controlled children. Furthermore, children receiving magnesium plus vitamin D showed significant reductions in conduct, emotional, and peer problems, as well as total difficulties in comparison with the placebo group. So what they're saying is magnesium and vitamin D in combination actually change the conduct and the behavior of children, children with ADHD. Zinc deficiency has been suggested to increase the risk of ADHD. So if your zinc is actually low, while sufficient zinc supply is thought to improve ADHD symptoms. Since various studies regarding zinc status in ADHD yielded inconsistent results, a recent systematic review and meta-analysis attempted to estimate the association between ADHD and serum plasma and hair zinc concentrations. This included only 22 studies. Sensitivity analysis in studies examining circulating levels of zinc showed that the exclusion of one study changed the overall effect. Further well-designed studies need to clarify pathophysiological role of zinc in ADHD. So, dose response analysis, I'm skipping a few things here because I'm trying to like find the relevant part of all of this, right? The certainty of evidence, the greatest symptom reduction was found after longer durations of zinc administration. The certainty of the evidence was rated moderate to very low for all outcomes. Furthermore, most trials included in the meta-analysis were conducted in Asian populations with moderate to high risk of zinc deficiency. Thus, the findings obtained cannot be generalized to other populations. Future well-designed, large-scale, well-designed, randomized controlled trials are needed to establish beneficial effects of zinc supplementation in ADHD. An association between iron deficiency in infancy and sluggish cognitive tempo or ADHD symptoms as rated by children's mothers in childhood and in adolescence 5, 10, and 16 years old was examined in 959 children in Chile. After adjusting for various covariates, greater severity of infant iron deficiency in infancy was associated with more frequent symptoms of sluggish cognitive tempo and ADHD at all ages studied. So iron deficiency plays a role. The long-term associations revealed between iron deficiency in infancy and ADHD behavior suggest that neurodevelopmental alterations caused by postnatal iron deficiency might play a role in pathophysiology of ADHD. Interventions supporting the brain development following early nutritional deprivation may be beneficial. Vitamins. I'm skipping ahead again. A systematic review of and meta-analysis of 4 randomized controlled trials with 256 children examining the effects of vitamin D supplementation as adjunctive therapy to methylphenidate on ADHD symptoms showed a small but statistically significant improvement in ADHD total scores, hyperactivity scores, inattention scores, and behavior scores. However, these effects were limited by the low to very low quality of evidence provided by the available studies. Effects of combined supplementation of vitamin D and magnesium are described above. We already went through that. Omega-3 fatty acids. We're going to get into that later in my next segment. But deficiencies in the supplementation of polyunsaturated fatty acids have been suggested to play a role in the etiology and therapy of mental disorders. The association of prenatal omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acid ratios in umbilical cord plasma with ADHD symptoms at 4 and 7 years of age have been evaluated in population-based birth cohorts. Omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acid concentrations were measured in cord plasma. The ADHD symptoms of 584-year-old children were assessed using teachers' reports. ADHD symptoms were also assessed by parents when the children were 7 years old. When a higher omega-6, omega-3 ratio in cord plasma was associated with higher ADHD index at 7 years of age, but no association was found at 4. No associations were observed for ADHD symptoms diagnostic criteria. These results suggest that maternal diet during pregnancy with high ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids may influence the risk of the development of subclinical ADHD symptoms in the offspring during childhood. Six-month double-blind placebo-controlled randomized trial investigating the effects of dietary supplementation with omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid on ADHD symptoms in 66 individuals aged 6 to 18. Between group differences and abbreviated Conners rated scale. So the Conners rated scale is a system that psychologists use to measure, it's usually used in school, but it goes out to us special education teachers and other teachers to see how that child is affected by the ADHD in school. So, but that's a whole nother story. I never got one because I was never diagnosed as a child, even though I should have been if we knew about it back when I was a child. These findings suggest some beneficial effects of omega-3 fatty acids on symptoms of ADHD. Following dietary omega-3 fatty acid supplementation for 8 weeks, impulsive behavior as assessed using the Barrett Impulsiveness Scale adapted for children, another one that we use as special education teachers, was examined in a randomized clinical trial comprising children and adolescents aged 6 to 16 with ADHD. The supplementation group showed a significantly lower impulsiveness scores after the intervention, while no changes were found in the control group. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to deactivate my handy dandy screen here, and we're going to get into it. If your brain doesn't get the raw materials, it cannot perform. As I said earlier, protein is needed, specifically tyrosine, because tyrosine is the precursor to dopamine. Low protein breakfast means a bad start to your day. So if you are not ingesting enough protein in the morning, you're going to have a miserable time at school. You're going to have a miserable time at work. I'm talking to me here because my wife will tell you I don't eat breakfast in the morning. I get up, shower, get my clothes on, get out the house. I drink coffee, and then I go. And I'm here to tell you, I definitely can feel a difference. Specifically, especially when I'm not properly nutritioned, right? If your breakfast is carbs and sugar, plain and simple, you have already lost the day. Your brain, cuckoo, is gone. You might as well say, right? So, one of the things that I want you to do when you are for breakfast is eggs over cereal. You want Greek yogurt over pastries. You want a protein shake instead of skipping meals. You don't want to turn around and find yourself on the wrong end of this, guys. I'm telling you. Because I feel less productive when I don't eat. Okay? When it comes to, so what I'm basically telling you is, I'm not telling you not to have any carbs in your diet in the morning. What I'm warning you is that if you're just merely consuming carbs in the morning, you're going to have a bad day. If it's an energy drink, if it's soda, if it's just coffee laden with sugar, if it's cereal laden with sugar, if it's any of those things, then you're going to have a rough go at it. All right. So, as I've said earlier, omega-3 fatty acids improve your mood and improves your attention to detail. Brain literally is built from fat. So, it ultimately, you're trying to run a high performance brain on a low quality fuel. So for instance, if you have a turbo engine, you can't put 87 fuel in your car. You're going to wreck your turbo components. And your brain, unfortunately, when you have ADHD, is running on turbo, and you are putting 87 gas in your brain. You need to turn around and put more into your brain that is of quality, right? So this means for lunch, salmon, or have some fish oil supplementation, nuts and seeds. You should have, as a matter of fact, come tomorrow, I am making a huge shopping list because I do like sunflower seeds. I like sunflower seeds a lot. But if I'm not eating them because they're not available, because I don't buy them, because I'm not in an area where I can purchase them readily, I need to go where they are and go get them. Okay? So the ultimate part that I'm trying to go here is things that are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, such as flaxseed. Flaxseed oil is. If you want to go with that route, if you want to just have some walnuts, if you want to have, like I said, sunflower seeds, if you want to have any form of seed that comes from trees, then I would suggest doing that. Now, carbs is not the problem. It's bad carbs that are the problem. Sugar spikes equals crashes equals worst symptoms. So, have you ever tried to drive your car when the fuel is extremely low? Like the gas light is on? Have you ever noticed how jittery your car gets? It'll go, but it don't feel as good as it does when it's full on gas, right? And especially if you put bad gas in it, you'll feel how much worse your car gets doing that. So it's not bad, it's not carbs in general, it's just bad carbs. So what are the bad carbs? It's obvious, it's sugar, white bread, candy, right? If that's what you're ingesting on a regular basis, shame on you. You're going to find yourself on the wrong end of things. Instead of white bread, make it whole grain. I personally would prefer oatmeal. I prefer steel cut oatmeal. Not only is it good on the fiber end, but it's also great on the whole grain end, and it's in your stomach for a while because there are protein components in oatmeal. However, and then on top of that, fruit. How much fruit are you eating? Fruit, not sugar, but fruit. Diabetics, be careful with how much fruit you ingest. I would strongly suggest that your fruit intake is limited to 2 fruits a day. Find your fiber in other things such as seeds and whole grains and things of that nature, right? Sugar overload is the problem. If you're overloaded in sugar, your brain is going haywire, right? So you've struck yourself with electricity, you're jittery, you're shaking, and now you have all this energy, you don't know what to do with it. On top of the fact that you have ADHD. And then you crash. So now you're literally listless, you don't care, you don't have any emotional buy-in anymore. You're depleted, right? So ultra processed foods, artificial dyes, sugar are the things that makes ADHD worse. So if you're drinking Mountain Dew, you literally hit the trifecta. Energy drinks, no go. Energy drinks are a no-go. Full on. I'm just saying, because caffeine, even though caffeine in some cases actually calms ADHD, you don't want to run the risk of trying to find out, does it work for you? Iron, zinc, magnesium, B vitamins. You have all those 4 components in there, I assure you, you won't have as many issues. You can't optimize what you're deficient in. You just can't. So, the other thing that I want to point out is that there is no, your gut is just as important as everything else. Why? Because if the bacteria in your gut is influencing you to consume sugar all the time, what do you think you're going to consume? So control your ADHD through your gut. You need some probiotics. You need yogurt. You need fiber. You need whole foods. If it's processed, if it's fast food or if it's processed, you should be minimizing that as much as humanly possible. Maybe once a week at best. Okay? Your food should be cooked at home. If you're going to use ingredients, unfortunately, you should make the ingredients yourself as best as you can. If it can't be avoided, do your best to find the most purest form of ingredients for what you're ingesting. But at the same time, you have to watch what you're eating, how you put it into your body. So those are you have to make your gut healthy again. My suggestion, have a colon cleanse, and then be immediately behind that colon cleanse, go in and flood your body with probiotics as best as you can. Don't go crazy with the probiotics, because then you're going to wreck your stomach, and then now you're going to be miserable. But if you properly cleanse your stomach, cleanse your colon, and you properly ingest probiotics, you can change the level of influence your body your bacteria has on your body, because those bacteria is sending chemical signals to your brain that mimics dopamine, that makes you want and crave sugar. Okay? Timing is everything. Timing is everything. Your brain can't focus if it's fighting for energy. So what do? You have to time your meals. Anywhere between 2 out of... you'll be fine. Just a minor adjustment for a colon cleanse. You can do it. For you specifically, I would do it on my days off, if you're concerned about that. But then the microbiomes in your stomach will change everything around, and then you might find yourself having a lot better time functioning in your colon and not having violent bowel movements, if that makes sense, right? Colon cleanses doesn't have to be the Miralax and Gatorade kind. You could colon cleanse by juicing and the high fiber diet. I would do that. That could be considered a type of colon cleanse as well. You don't necessarily have to, like I said, you don't have to do the Gatorade Miralax trick like I had to for my colonoscopy, because Lord Jesus, whoo, that was traumatic. But anyway, if you're skipping meals, you're gonna have problems. ADHD is about consistency. Your brain needs consistency. You need to be consistent. And you're never going to be consistent if you are inconsistent. If that makes sense, right? So, ADHD isn't something you manage mentally. It is something you manage and you support biologically. If you fix the fuel, you'll improve the function. Are you going to run like every other car out there? Probably not. But you'll definitely be running a better car than you were running before. And it's high time that we as adults start recognizing the reason why we can't pay attention worth a damn is because we eat like shit. The reason why our children can't focus worth a damn in school is because we feed them shit. Chicken nuggets, pizza, hamburgers, DoorDash, McDonald's, DoorDash, Taco Bell. All of that is not helping the cause. Moderate how much saturated fat you're ingesting as well, because the saturated fat does affect the blood vessels that surround your brain. And if it's affecting the blood vessels that surround your brain, you're starving your brain for valuable nutrients, which therefore messes with your capacity to function, which is why people say that Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes. Okay? Want to make sure you keep that in mind. It is really important. I'm about to land this plane, y'all, because I got to get out of here. But it is really important that you guys truly embrace and understand how nutrition plays a role in ADHD. Because there's a child like me right now out there that does not know that if they change the way they eat, things might improve for them, especially in school. As adults, i.e. me, if I were aware how ADHD affected the brain as much as I do now, maybe I'd perform better in different ways as an adult. So, if this helped you, share with someone who thinks ADHD is about willpower. Follow Stoutt Fitness for real solutions, not just surface level advice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Have a nice day. Be the best you. Class is Stoutt.